Spoiler alert, I understand that it's not easy for you. None of it's easy when you're starting out. The idea behind making this journal is to take the fear out of messing up. I'm so passionate about how I can help you get started. Have you seen headings like Easy Beginners? Quick and easy for beginners. So easy. I understand that it's not easy for you. None of it's easy when you're starting out. What I am going to tell you is that I can help you get started. Today's video is more of a course than a video. It's for beginners who haven't been able to get started. So I'm confident that after you take this free course on how to make this junk journal, either this one using the plain copy paper, and I'm going to call this one the practice journal, or this one using tea-dyed paper and book pages, and I'll call this one the beginner's junk journal. They're identical journals made exactly the same way. The only difference is the paper. All you need to do is decide if you want to make the practice journal using copy paper or the junk journal using tea-dyed paper and book pages. The idea behind making this journal out of the white copy paper and a single colour for the cover is to take the fear out of messing up. If you're one of those crafters who can't bear to cut into your pretty papers, this one will help you get past that fear, because it doesn't matter if you ruin this type of paper, and you'll be surprised at how you will chop into it without hesitation whatsoever. And if you're feeling brave and you want to use your tea-dyed paper and book pages, make this one here. I've made this tutorial in real time. I've only made the video go fast in the boring bits. If you want to do the practice journal, you don't need much at all. You'll be able to make this with minimal supplies. You can get them from Spotlight here in Australia, or if you're overseas at the $2 shops or similar. Everybody's got some white copy paper or some white paper out of an exercise book or something like that. And if you're going to make this practice one, just one sheet of coloured cardstock. You can buy that from the $2 shop as well. A little bit of embroidery thread and a needle, and you can make yourself a journal. This is a great place to start, and I'm confident. I know you can do it. So come on, let's get started. The first part of this video is going to be about the template. You don't even have to worry about what size to make this journal. I've got the template for you here. Hang on to your hat, because this is a long video, so I've broken it down into sections. So let's get started. Now about the templates. I've supplied the templates to make this journal in both A4 and letter size paper PDFs. It doesn't matter if you're making the practice journal with white copy paper or the junk journal with tea-dyed papers, the template is the same. Go to my website and download the template, and when you print your templates out, make sure you put your cardstock in your printer straight, because the page template we're using the full width of the paper here. And if you put these pieces of cardstock into your printer crooked, these lines are all gonna print crooked. So make sure you feed it into your printer straight, then come along on this red dotted line here and this red dotted line here. You're gonna cut those ends off. If you don't want to use one of these knives, just use a pair of scissors. So that pattern is now ready to go. Now you've got a little bit of work to do here for the cover pattern. We've got to join these two pieces together. So all you got to do is cut out around the black line on both of these pieces, and then we're going to join this piece up to that piece. I'm going to use the Barely Art glue. You can use a fabric glue, you can use whatever glue, you can use a glue stick, but what you got to do is make sure that you just stay inside of this black line. Just line that up, diamond to diamond, square to square, those squares, and the edges here should just all fall into place. So that's pattern piece A and B joined together, and that gives you your cover. When you print the whole template, you only need to print that on normal copy paper. So you would cut that out, and then we're just going to fold this down the center, and we're going to have the printing facing up. So when you fold this in half, you want to be able to see the printing. And just put that aside because we won't need this until we're ready to sew in the pages. To prepare the cover, you'll need the cover template, 1 sheet of scrapbook cardstock, a ruler, a pencil, a craft knife or scissors. By now you should have decided which journal you're going to make. You have, haven't you? No procrastinating. If you're making the practice journal, use a plain block colour. Go pick one. If you're making the pretty paper junk journal, use a patterned scrapbook piece. This is normal printed scrapbook cardstock. You can choose a piece that's white on the back or a double-sided print. Don't worry too much today because this is a practice run. If you happen to be using a plain colour like this blue, which is blue on both sides, you've got nothing to worry about. The whole idea of making this is so that you don't feel any stress. We're here today so that you can build some confidence. Now grab your cover template. Now that is designed to fit a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock. This cardstock is probably around anywhere between 250, 300 GSM. You could go a bit heavier, but you really don't need to for this style journal. I'm now going to put my template up into the top right hand corner. And just using a light hand with the pencil, I'm just going to mark there, not all the way around, mark at the corner there. Mark at the corner there and just mark at the bottom here. I don't need to mark all the way around because all you got to do then is rub off those pencil lines if you get carried away with them. You don't need to because we're going to use the ruler to join those lines up. So put the ruler on those lines and just cut that. Take your time when you're cutting, especially if you're using one of these knives, because you've got to hold that ruler firm and just make that nice clean cut. Turn it around and cut your other line from that pencil line to that one. Holding nice and firm and go a slow cut. Do a second cut if you need to. So that's the junk journal style cover cut out. If you're making the practice junk journal, do the same. Put the template on your cardstock, trace around the edge and cut it out. Congratulations, you've started. Now move on to the pages. I'm starting off with the practice journal. If you're making the junk journal, skip this section and go straight to the prepare the pages for the junk journal. What you need here is 20 sheets of white, pink, blue or green copy paper, the page template and a self-healing craft mat. Now these are going to be the practice pages. I'm going to use normal everyday white copy paper just so you get the feel of it. I've just picked up a heap of papers and I've counted out 20 sheets. So I've got my template here, so I'm just going to sit that there. Now if you're going to do this as a practice and just use this plain white copy paper, doesn't matter if you use pink or blue or green, it would still make up a nice journal for you. When you use this type of paper, it lays very flat. so you can put a little bit more in your group of pages, which is your signature. When you're using tea-dyed paper and book pages, it takes up a lot more room, so the group of pages are a little bit thicker. So just bear that in mind. This is one thing you'll automatically get to know once you start making junk journals. This is your first step, knowing the difference between the behavior of a signature using different sorts of paper. To start off, we're going to use all 20 sheets of paper, fold them in half, putting corner to corner on the table. Remember on here, we cut a little bit off this paper template, but on here we haven't done that yet. I'm still using the full length. Have a look at what's happened. This is called page creep. And this page on the outside has got shorter because it's got further to go around this fold line here. So when I put that there like that and I try and butt them up and crease that down here, that page creep happens, and that is worse on the back side. So folding them all down at one time, 20 pages, isn't that easy. See how bulky that is? If you tried to do that with tea-dyed paper and all your other pages, you'd get yourself in a sort of a mess. You can grab a few at a time and fold them. So we'll do that. Crease with your finger first and then your bone folder. So you put them all inside each other now. Doesn't matter what order these are in because these are all the same. So I'm going to fold that there, and that'll be for reference that that's my half size and that's my full size. Tuck all that in. I'm going to put that fold line on that fold line, and I'm just going to get my pencil again. Same as before, I'm not going to run it all the way down, and I'm just going to mark it there. Now I know that I can cut all of that off. So I'm going to use my steel ruler this time. I'm making sure that I've got a good sharp blade here. So what I do is I just get my little pliers and I just snap off that blade piece there and bring it out, not too long. Don't try and use your knife like that. Just have it one or two of those hanging out. Hold on to your ruler with your fingers fairly wide apart and do lots of passes. See, I'm not pushing down on this heavy at all. I'm just taking a few of these papers off at a time. And I'm going to do that until I get all the way through. I find this is the best way to get this nice, neat cut. So now we've got rid of that page creep and we've got that lovely smooth cut edge. Right, so that's that. We're not worried about the top because we're using the full width of our paper, which happens to be our top and bottom now. So that there now fits our pattern. If you've got any pencil marks, just remove them now. Now that's 20 pages folded in half, which gives us 40. If we went front and back, we'd actually have 80. So you end up with quite a lot in this book. So when we make this up, you could use this as a writable diary and you would have 80 pages to write on. That's the practice run of preparing our pages. If you were going to skip this practice run and you just wanted to use tea-dyed paper and book pages, I'll show you how to prepare those. Okay, so you've got Brave and you've decided to tea dye some of your copy paper. This has just been soaked in some hot water with some tea bags in it. Then I've just left them out to dry. I've got 10 sheets of tea dyed paper here. I've also got one coffee dyed sheet that I've printed on, and I've got this printable here for you in a freebie. You can go to the description below and go to the link to my website, and you can print this out and use this in your journal as well. So that's 11. This paper here are sheets out of this pad here. It's a combo pad, and this is called craft paper. So if you get access to these at a $2 shop or somewhere like that, just go through and pull out whatever coloured sheets that you like. So they're roughly in an A4 size. I've also taken a map page out of an old diary. Get your template out, and it's just roughly got to be a similar size. It doesn't matter if it's shorter, it's still going to work. It doesn't matter if it's not as long this way either, it's still going to work. And if it's longer, we're going to cut it off. So it's always handy to have this close by. This page here is out of a Daphne's diary. Then I've got a lunch bag. These are from the supermarket in Coles. So they're just normal paper bags. So they're a brown paper bag, and believe it or not, look at that. The size is perfect. So it's just got to be inside that height so that when I fold it over like that, it's going to work. So that fits. Then I've got a normal book page. It's no colour on this page, so you don't have to use colour pages. Now this time, remember that's my fold line. I'm going to fold that in half because this page is folded in half. So if I put that in there, all I've got to do now is trim this book page down. I can do it from the bottom and trim the top, or I can do it from the top and trim the bottom, or I can do it in the center. So we'll do that shortly. Then I've got this here is an old recipe page from my mum's recipe books, but these are perfect. So if you see these in the op shops or at a garage sale, grab them. These little books are so good to open up to the center, take the staples out, and just reuse these little pages. They look fantastic in your journals. And I'm going to use this one in here. I know it fits because I've got my template here. Fits perfectly actually. It looked like it was made to measure. And that one fits. Another one almost made to measure. And I'm using that because the pink in that matches these colours here. So if you want to start matching your colours, before you put your pages in, just pick them up and just have a look at them and go, well, does that go? Is it going to work? And if it doesn't, just change it out for something. Then this one here is just like half a page left over. So this would have been from a much bigger book. So I think that greens will go with these colours here and the oranges. So I'm going to use this one as well. So that was just a leftover page. So it was just a fluke that it works. So I know that's shorter, so it's going to fit, and it's longer that way. So once I start putting my pages together, I'll work out, am I going to cut that off, or am I just going to fold it over and turn that into a little slip side pocket? So I'll see how many pages I've got before I decide whether or not I want to add some more. So now it's time to fold them in half. This is where I don't pick them all up together and fold them over. I'm going to fold them individually. You can see how old these papers are. They've got some discolouring on them. So I'm not worried about that just yet because I can still work with it. So I'm just folding them in half and stacking them on top of each other before I go ahead and put them inside of each other. This one here, I can put a few together, so I'm going to fold 3 at the one time. Making sure that the top and the bottom is definitely lined up. Now I've got some damaged pages here too. I'm just going to show you that we can still use these damaged pages. We're going to repair them with a piece of washi tape. So there, they got damaged in the tea bath because once you wet your water, you sort of, sometimes when you pull them out, you have a few casualties. There's another tear and we're going to repair them. So I've got 3 there to repair. This one's the worst. If this one's too much of a hassle to fix, I'll remove it. I won't use it. But I just want to show you, you can use damaged paper by just repairing it with either some fabric and some stitches or some washi tape. Now we've got to fold these. You've got to decide, do you want that on the inside or the outside? So you fold that in half. You've got to also then decide, do you want this to be opened up as a pocket or do you want to leave it closed? I'm going to leave it closed and I'm going to use this one as a page pocket. This one here I'm going to use to either glue things on or just journal on. So that one's going to stay like that. This one here, I'm going to make it so that this is at the top instead of at the bottom. So I've got my template again. And that's how I'll decide how it works. And look at that, another fluke. That fits inside perfectly. I don't even have, oh yeah, I've got to trim a little bit off the side here. This one here is too big, it's got to be trimmed. When I put all this together, they're going to be one signature. So I'm going to start off by having a tea-dyed paper. And it's not necessarily going to stay in this order. I'm just going to get started. So I might put my paper bag next. Then I might put a coloured sheet like this. Then, oh, I want that to go next to that. Then I might put that there because that is going to go okay with that on the back side. Then I'm going to come back in and put another blank tea-dyed paper. You could even put 2. You can put 2 together there. You can then put the pink and the little, this is a galah. They're a pink parrot and we call them a galah. So again, the tea-dyed paper. I've got a lot more of this tea-dyed paper than I have the coloured papers, but you can always change that up. I'm going to put a map next. But 21 pages is enough for me today. So now I'm going to take these pages apart and I'm going to make the ones that are too long the same size, height-wise, this way, as my template. I'm just going to grab these coloured pages for now. I'm just going to take them back out. So we'll put that back there. These pages are the right height. This page here was also the right height. Keep using your template. The A4 pages are the right height. This book page here is a little bit shorter than my template. It can stay in here. This page is too tall. I'm just going to grab these coloured pages for now. I'm going to cut off some at the bottom and some at the top because some of these pages have got some colour damage. I'm holding my ruler firm and I'm going to do several passes. Right, now I'm not letting any of my pages move. I'm clamping my fingers on here and turning it around, and I'm going to cut off the opposite end. It makes a difference having a really sharp knife. I'm not cutting this side off just yet. So now we can go back in and put these papers back in. Try and remember where they were. I know that one goes there, and that one went beside this colourful one here. Right, so that one's good. Now we're going to come back in and shorten these book pages here. So we'll take this one out on its own. Some of them you need to do on their own. There's just no avoiding that. So just have that patience and do them on their own. So we've got this here. We need to work out, do we want to lose much of this design here? No, I don't. So I'm going to use my square ruler here, and I'm just going to trim off that scrappy bit there. Then I'm going to put my template on here. It's going to now give me the new height of this page. So I'm just going to have a quick look. Yeah, I'm going to cut off a lot of this plain border here. Doesn't really matter about that side. Cut that off there. So now I know that that is the right height. So that can go back in now. I can do the same for this one. Work out which part of this page I want to keep. Have a look at all of the pages before you start cutting in. I'm going to keep most of this. So I'm going to trim a little bit off the bottom. Now I'm doing that just so that I can have a bit more of this design here. So by taking a little bit off the bottom, by moving that up, I'm able to fit that whole bush in there instead of cutting it off. Put that back in there. Now, all of my pages are even, top and bottom. Doesn't matter if they're slightly out, but as long as they are not 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch or 10 millimeters higher than this template. They need to be inside of it. Right, now remember, we haven't cut our cover yet. We're leaving our cover until we've got the pages ready. So now we've got all of these longer bits to deal with. Now we're going to do the same as we did with those group of white pages. We've got lots of page creep here, but they're more prominent because they're much longer. Once you've put all of your pages in their place, I suggest that you don't move them around. Once we've cut all of these long ones off, don't move them. I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going to push that middle page right down in here so that that inside of that fold is in as far as it'll go. We're not going to be perfect because remember, you do not have to be perfect. Bring your template back. Put the fold line of your template where it's marked here, those 2 arrows, on the fold line of your signature. Put that there together. Straighten it all up. Put a little mark at the top and a little mark at the bottom. Right, there at the top and there at the bottom. Move your template away. Don't worry about any colours that you see peeking out anywhere here. That is part of making a junk journal. It does not have to be 100% perfect. If you wanted this to be 100% perfect now, you would bring this ruler back in here and cut through all of them together. But we're not doing that. We want it to look a little bit like that. Now we can have a quick look before we cut. Remember that page I folded there? There's my cut mark and there's my folded page. It's in a lot shorter than my cut mark. So it's the only page I folded. I know I can safely hold this ruler down and cut through all of these pages. I've got everything firmly held. I'm going to make sure I don't rush. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go again, a short blade. Don't try and make your blade long because it wobbles, and just gently cut a few pages at a time. Keep that blade not on an angle like that, not like that, just nice and straight up and down like that. From the top down to the bottom, cutting through a few pages at a time. You've got, I've got here 21 pages folded in half, so I'm cutting through 42 pages. And I'm just going to move them out of the road as I go, gently taking my time. Any that doesn't quite get through, I'll do it again until I feel it cut all the way to the bottom of the mat. Not moving away yet. And there I have it, all done. Now, time for the reveal. Holding it, and there they all are. Paper bag survived. The folded page survived. Look at that. See, now what do you think? You think you can do that? Now, look, what would happen if you cut that off? Nothing. It wouldn't be the end of the world. You would just cut that fold line off. You would have a spare piece of paper there and you would make something else out of it. So it would not be the end of the world if you accidentally cut that off. So don't let things like that worry you. Same with this paper bag. If you accidentally cut that end off, the folded end of the paper bag, it wouldn't matter. Doesn't matter. Keep going. Don't bash yourself up if you make those sorts of cuts and you didn't mean to. I'm going to rub off that pencil line. We don't want that there. And there are our pages ready to put into our cover. So we've got the practice run of the blank pages and we stepped it up a notch and we've made junk journal style pages. Before we move on, I want to show you what you can do if you change your mind. After you've cut your pages, what you can do if you want to take some pages out and put some new ones in. I'm just going to check to see if I'm happy with all my pages. The thing is, when you get to this stage, you can change your mind because we've put no holes in this and we can take out a page and change it. So if I want to take that out, I can. And I also have decided not to use this little witch page in this journal because I think I can use this in a Halloween journal. When I was showing you when we were putting our pages together and it had page creep, what you got to remember now, when you start taking pages out and putting new pages in, you've got to remember this. This group of pages here have been cut and they're all ending at the same place here. So I'm going to open that one up there. I'm going to use some clamps for this. This one might be easier to handle. And I'm just going to clamp that there. So I know that this little group here belongs to here. So I'm going to move that out of the road. And I'm also going to clamp this group here. And I'm going to put it on an angle like that. So when I use this page here to cut a new page, I know I've got to put it back in between these two here, and when I fold it back over, it's not going to creep out or be too short. If that happens, all you got to do is cut it off if it's too long, and if it's too short, it's just going to be in here somewhere, and it's not going to be the end of the world. But it's good to know this sort of thing when you're learning to put something together, about what will happen if you change a page out or move a page around. And I'm going to use this page as my template to replace the new page. This was in my mum's stash. She had heaps of these magazines. So if you've got any magazines, you can go through them. So this one here is perfect. I've already cut off one side. So when I turn it around, it's an A4 piece of paper. I can fold it in half, and I've got a front and a back. That looks pretty nice, and that's going to go well with my junk journal. So I can use that. So I'm not going to use that. Oh, this one looks nice. So for now, I'll put this one here in place of this one. I'm actually going to fold it in half first, and then I'm going to cut it off here. So by folding it in half first, because the design changes at the center, I'm going to have an even pattern on both sides. So then I've got my folded page that I've removed out of my book. I'm going to put that back on there. So I'm going to cut that off there. So I'm going to bring back my pages, open that up, pop that back in there, and that one's taken care of. So that now is going to be my new page inserted in there. Now to take care of the center one, this is another thing. I can change my mind entirely. I can leave that page blank in the center, and I'll just put this one in here in the center because the color still goes. Look at that. It still works really well. That was a bit of a fluke. I'm going to fold that in half and pop that back in the middle. And doesn't that look so pretty? I like this one a lot better than the one I just removed. You can use the page that you removed as your template, or you can just use the book itself, tuck that right in there and put pencil marks there and cut that off. There's our replacement pages, and I think they look pretty. If you don't want to see that page first, all you do is flip it over and see that page first. Just remember, when you're starting out, you don't have to follow everything to the T. You can make a couple of little changes as long as it doesn't change the structure of the book. Now this works much better for me. You might have liked the other page that I had in there. That's fine. Whatever you like, you do. Alrighty, that's enough to get you started. I'll see you on part 2 in the next video, where we'll be doing the fold over style cover and sewing the cover to the signature. Ciao for now.